Hi guys, James from Van Haven, and today we're going to be talking about all things air suspension. So behind me we've got two vans that I'm sure you're very familiar with. We've obviously got the Van Haven demo van, which is sat on the VB air ride suspension, and we're going to talk through the benefits of that system and the drawbacks of that system. And on this van, which I'm sure you all know as well, which is our other demo, the Bentley Brooklands Green on the gold Vossen wheels with the full carbon, which is obviously quite a well-known van now, which this van's actually sat on the ABP suspension. So we're just going to run over and talk you through the differences between the two systems. First thing is the height at full low. So obviously on the ABP system, this is dropped all the way down to the floor and gives you that really show look, show stance, and you've got a lot of versatility with that system. But it's a little bit more complicated to use, but we'll run through that in a little bit more detail. So then on the VB, this is also sat down at its lowest setting, but a little bit more of a simple system to use, and it's got VW warranty with this actual system itself, so we'll run through that in a little bit more detail. The VB, you can go plus or minus 35 to 40 mil over the standard drive height, but it will put itself up and down depending on driving speeds and all that sort of stuff. So we'll run through and have a bit of a look through. This is at the full low height at the moment, but as you can see, the controller on these is just a really simple controller. So you haven't got presets for each individual wheel like you have on the ABP system. So this is literally, you've got different preset heights and you've got auto level. So we can just press sports mode, which is the optimal sports drive height, which will basically give you the optimal sort of driving height whilst retaining a sports sort of suspension look and feel, which is kind of a mid-range. This system's a little bit slower, a little bit more progressive. It's designed a bit more for comfort and for everything to do with usability, ease of use, comfort, auto level, really good for your camper van setups, really good for your combi sleeper day van setup. It's a lot more on that side, and if you are not really into air suspension or getting that really low show look, this is probably the kit that works quite well for you, because the controller's really easy. It's sort of 3 buttons. You know, you've got the low preset, the drive height, and then you've got the high preset, which you can't go over 10 miles an hour with. And then you've got the auto level. So if you're parked up on a hill, you're camping for the night, you can just press the auto level, and that will auto level to 100 millimeters. So it will sort of adjust itself on all 4 corners to give you a nice level bed to sleep on. Very simple. As you can see, the system's pretty much up to that drive height now. So it takes a little while to get up there, but it's nice and quiet as well, this system, which is quite nice. Whilst that's doing its thing, we're going to have a look at the ABP. As you can see, this is really low, this system. You know, we're sort of tucking this wheel right up underneath the carbon arch here, and got to get the offset of the wheels absolutely perfect for this, so it just sits right up inside the wheel arch. Lots of clearance on this as well. So in terms of the adjustment that you've got on here, obviously right the way down is sort of fully slammed, but we can go fire the ignition on, automatically raises up. So already you can see the speed at this system, how it lifts an awful lot faster. As you can see, you've got individual presets for all 4 corners. So we can have it on a preset here, which we can have as a preset drive height, which you can see at the moment. So preset is 4590, it's at 6594. So we can double press this and it will just take it to that preset ride height, which it's down at now. But you can also do individually, you can do all 4 corners, which you can't do on the VB system. So if you wanted to just put the front up, you can raise the front right the way up on its own and have the back can be lowered right down. As you can see now, we've got the front jacked right up, the back lowered right down. You can do that side to side, corner to corner, however you want to do that. It's a slightly harder system when you're driving it and using it, as opposed to the VB. And this will go a little bit higher than where it is at the moment. So you've got one more setting on here, which is for the lifted right up, which is for off-road mode. Go up a little bit higher than where that is at the moment. But as I said, this is a slightly slower, more progressive system, not designed so much for that ultimate show look and show stance. It's a lot more about versatility, usability. Press one button, goes up, press another button, goes down. So, but the ultimate test is going to be really getting out on the road, seeing how these things perform, seeing how they drive, what the cornering's like, and it's just big improvements over your standard suspension setups, you know. So this is at full height. If you go now on this system down to full low, it's a lot slower in the way that it will operate, and it will go about slowly. As you can see, it's slowly dropping itself down. It's quite calm, it's quite slow, it's quite progressive, it's quite sort of camper van, don't need to be in too much of a hurry. And then we'll do the same on the ABP. You see, awful lot quicker. That's kind of all things air suspension, lots of other stuff on these vans, as you know, but it's kind of gives you a good idea of what you can do with both of these. So yeah, we'll go and get these things out on the road and yeah, see what you think. Going out for a little drive in the blue demo with the VB suspension. At the moment, we've got this set up in the higher of the drive heights. It's nice, you know, it's a good setup. It definitely feels a lot softer than what you get when you're lowered at this sort of height on a coilover or a spring setup. Those two setups take all the body roll out, and even with this at full height now, you've got the body roll is definitely far improved over a standard suspension setup for sure.
In my opinion, is the best. A really, really nice, easy system to use. And that's probably why I like it so much. I like just getting into a van, being able to press one button and then being able to drive off.
You can do this on the fly as well as you're driving. So if we hit the sports mode now, that will drop us down about 35 to 40 mil over what the standard ride height is. And you can tell when it's done that because the little blue button will just go into a full blue, which now tells you that you're sort of down at that sports ride height, which is the lowest driving height you can have on this system.
And just driving it around in general, I find it's a bit more of a, I guess you say a wafter. It's just nice sitting back in this nice comfy seat, stick the armrest down and just cruise on around.
You can feel this now is noticeably a little bit harder than we had it on the higher driving height, but corners a little bit flatter than when it was a bit hard than it was up at the higher driving height. Still nice and soft, quite progressive the way that it gives you the feedback.
So getting into something like this and just being able to kick back, enjoy the scenery and just waft over bumps and undulations in the road is such a nice experience. As I said, it's dead easy to use, can't really go wrong with it, and enjoy the journey.
Obviously we're running on a low profile tyre on this van, so it's a little bit hard. If you were to run on a bigger profile tyre, or this system also works really well on a swamper wheel and tyre setup, works really well because it doesn't go as low. You can run this on a swamper wheel and tyre setup, which does give it a really, really soft ride. So
yeah, you can chuck this van about a little bit in the corners. It's not, you know, like driving a van on the factory suspension, it's rolling around everywhere. You still can send it into a bend and be pretty safe in the knowledge that it's going to stick to the road. But there is slightly more body roll than in the other van with the other suspension on it. We just went over a bit of a big bump there, and I was glad I was in this van because it just absorbed it. And didn't feel a thing. But then as I head into this corner and a slightly more pacey section of the road, I'm a bit thinking maybe the other system is what I'd have, but that's the trade-off ultimately.
I do like this system, but having driven obviously these vans a lot, I still think the system for me is the lower sport suspension setup. That's more the way that I like to drive. You know, I don't mind having a car or a van or a you know, a 4x4, whatever it is. I don't mind having a slightly harder ride in order to have ultimately the lower look, the lower feel overall, but that sort of slightly sportier suspension and feel on the road. Personally, I quite like that.
It's going to come down to what you want to use the van for and what sort of functionality you want. If you want something that's really nice and comfortable, easy to cruise around in, you can just, you know, pull up to the park with the kids, drop the suspension down a bit, get the pushchairs out the back. This is going to do the job perfectly. If your scene is maybe more going to shows, being able to slam the van all the way to the ground, then the other system is absolutely perfect for that. And also the type of driving you like to do. Progressive,
Soft enough that, you know, you're not sort of having your bones rattle when you're driving. A little bit more body roll around the corners, but overall a really nice usable kit. That's it. That's the VB suspension. We'll now go and check out the ABP on the green van. So just rolling out now in the green van with the ABP on it. We're at the preset lowest drive height now. Already feels a lot more planted on the road. It's a little bit harder. Going around the corners, you know, you don't get that same level of body roll as what you get on the other system. It feels much more like a sports car. You know, you're coming along, you can feel the road.
This is a much sort of firmer ride in this particular one than in our blue demo van. So you can feel the bumps in the road a lot more, but it does drive a bit better through the corners. There's not really any body roll. And you can actually drive it a little bit harder, which seems a bit counterintuitive in a van, but because you can actually lean on the suspension, it does make it feel a lot more like a sportier car.
But also as you're cornering, it stays nice and flat. The van stays flat and doesn't really have any body roll as you're going around the corners, which personally I like that sort of feeling of not wallowing around as you're going around the corners. But the offset to that is that you get a slightly firmer ride. You know, this is probably more akin to something along the lines of still softer than most coilover suspensions, but it's more of a sports car sort of feel.
It's a bit more complicated to work, requires a little bit more input from you in terms of getting it set up, which for me personally, I prefer something a bit more simple and easy to use because I am a bit more of a simple person.
But you do get that, like going over those little potholes there, you can feel those potholes, whereas in the other system you couldn't really feel those as much. But good comparison, both running same profile tyres, so both of these are running, I think, 275 45 20s, so good comparison because they're both on a very similar wheel and tyre setup.
So just as the road starts opening up a bit, we've come out of Shillingstone, which is where we're based, and starting to be able to throw the van around a little bit more now, and you can really feel the feedback coming through. So you can actually feel almost every bump in the road. It does mask the drain covers and whatnot pretty well, but it's when you start going through those slightly quicker corners that you can actually start leaning on it, and it gives you that feedback of what the wheels are doing, where they're facing. Are you going over a bump? Is it flat? And yeah, it's, as I said, a lot more feedback and a bit more of an engaging experience to drive.
When we go back, what we'll do is we'll just put this up a little bit. So we'll sort of add 20 psi into each of the bags. Just to, even at this height, this will still be sitting lower than what the VB system sits at full drop. It's the VB's at sort of 35 to 40 mil full drop. This will be probably lowered about 60, I would say, at the moment. Still a little bit firmer than what the VB system is, but softened it up from where you were before, and I'll show you where you can feel a little bit more body roll as you're going around the corners. So
it's really nice if you want to get a van like this and still be able to chuck it round every now and then, and still have that confidence in the steering to be able to actually put it into a corner and think, yeah, I'm getting around that, it's going to stick, without the body rolling around everywhere. So if you are wanting to drive spiritedly, this is definitely a very nice system to have.
This, I think, for me, this is the system that I would personally have. You know, I like that feedback that you get from going around a corner. You don't get that body roll, you don't get that sort of nod and that lean as you're going around like you get on a standard suspension setup, or you know, a lot of 4x4 standard vans. You obviously get an awful lot of body roll. So this really makes you have that really nice sports vehicle sort of feel, but the offset is you do get a slightly harder ride. Yeah, I mean, it's very much personal preference, but if you really want to know what works for you, come down, give us a call, come down and see us. We have all the different suspension setups available, so yeah, come down and give us a shout, and yeah, see what you think. For me, this is the ultimate air suspension setup. Super low, air it right out. On the road, you've got the sports feel, a little bit more hard, I suppose, than what you get on this van, but this has got to be, I mean, look at it. This is the ultimate, that has got to be the ultimate setup for me. What do you think, Jordan?
It does look cool, I'll give you that. But for me, personally, I'd rather be wafting around in extreme comfort in my lovely tan leather bucket seats, just enjoying the scenery, enjoying the countryside and the winding lanes, and being able to just enjoy myself, kick back, relax.
So to sum it up, Jordan's taking a wafter. He just wants to go and waft around all over the place and have ease of use. I'm going to make my life really complicated and have a much more intricate system, but then I like to geek out on that sort of thing. So for me, I'm driving this home tonight.
I'm driving this home.
There we go. Like I said on the video though, we've got both of these are here, loads of other vans that have got all sorts of different suspension setups. So ultimately, Jordan, you like that, I like this. You guys will like what you like, so the best thing to do is to come down, drive the VB, drive the ABP. I mean, we've got vans here which have got coilovers, springs, lift kits, so...
We've got all sorts, haven't we?
Come down and check it out for yourself. That's ultimately the thing to do. Cheers guys, see you soon.